Hi, I'm Linda Fox, Senior Reporter PhocusWire, and I am in the PhocusWire studio at Phocuswright Conference Europe in Barcelona. And I'm delighted to be here with Rebecca Suiker from Social Hub and Paul vanMeerendonk from Ideas. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's get straight into this. This whole idea of beyond the bed services and hotels kind of sweating all of their assets to gain as much revenue as possible. Why has it not happened before? And I'll start with you, Paul. Is it just purely tech, or is it attitudinal, or what do you think it is?
I think it's probably a combination of all of those factors. I think we've looked historically a lot of times at total revenue management, managing more than just the room, and looking at all the other spaces in the hotel. And first of all, it's cultural. So a lot of the traditional approaches have been very split between rooms, F&B, and other areas of the hotel. I think that's changed a little bit over time, but that was originally one of the challenges. And then along with that came a lot of the tech challenges. So data sitting in silos, and in order to be able to, for us as a company, for example, on the data analytics side, to be able to make decisions, we need access to data. And if data sitting in very different systems, all different configurations in different ways, it's been very hard to address that. So I think those two, both cultural and technology, have both played into making this harder to solve than many people expect.
And presumably, Rebecca, you come from a slightly different position in the sense that your whole concept is built around this social nature. You want to offer all these services, you want to bring people together. So presumably you start with the services and then worry about the tech, or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, I think in the strategy we of course do. We start about, okay, how can we bring this community together, and how can we facilitate that for all the guests that we have in-house, because that varies quite a lot. And then we look for the right tech partner that can help us with that. That's definitely our approach. Being a hybrid hospitality concept, it's not easy because there's not a lot of off-the-shelf products that we can leverage. Right. But we're happy we found partners that are willing to develop together with us.
Okay, so that helps bring along with the flexibility as you grow and develop more services, and then they grow with you. And great. Okay, so just in terms of, what works well have you found when you introduce services to your customers, to your guests? And how do you sort of introduce a new concept? And are there challenges there where, immediately you see something that the guests go, oh no, that's too much kind of thing?
Haven't really seen that last part too much. What we like to do is involve our guests in, all the developments that we're doing. So we're frequently speaking to them. We're asking them for their opinion. Recently, we have been looking into our co-working proposition, and we've talked to a lot of co-workers in-house. Okay, what is it that they want to see, what they want to have as extra facilities, or, us bring events to them. Mm-hmm. It's a lot about listening to our community, and from there take a position on how we want to grow.
So I see concepts like Social Hub, Zoku, and I don't know whether it's coincidence that they've both come out of the Netherlands market, but I see these concepts as very much kind of in that, test and learn type attitude, I guess. Do you think hotels more widely, the industry more widely, have got or beginning to get the mindset of test and learn rather than these massive transformational kind of technology programs?
I think so. I think a shift has happened in terms of the technology side that's helped that along a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it used to be very much in one big behemoth system, let's say, sitting at the center that controlled everything, and that was very difficult to shift that left or right. But as the technology has become a lot more smaller players that integrate now very well, so the integration between systems is much better than it has been ever before. I think that allows a lot more innovation to happen in smaller pockets. Yeah. And I think not just the smaller groups, but the bigger hotel chains are also experimenting in that way and trying to address innovation in smaller pockets rather than trying to boil the ocean in a 2 or 3 year long or even 10 year long project to try and address something. So that's a good thing to see in the industry.
And I think the pace of innovation now is so rapid that, those, as you say, those 3 or even 10 year projects, they just, you might get to the stage of implementation and it's all kind of a bit too late. It's all, passed you by almost.
Absolutely. And I actually work in what we call the Ideas Lab lab within ideas, and our purpose is really to do that, to try and innovate as quickly as possible. So we've really narrowed it down and said we're trying to do proof of concepts with our clients as quickly as possible and turn that around within a few months to know, is it going to work, is it not going to work, should we continue or not, and then develop out a solution or something that solves the challenge or brings value to the customer within a year. So really do it as quickly as possible, which is different from how things were done in the past.
Yeah, for sure. I'm hearing that hotels are waking up to the concept of revenue management, or the importance of revenue management, I should say, really. Again, going back to concepts like what Social Hub is doing. So, what would you say are the pitfalls of a revenue management system, or what should hoteliers be looking out for?
I think generally, historically, revenue management systems had looked at it from the asset perspective. So you have a hotel and you've got a bedroom. Let's start with that and then see how we optimize that. I think what's shifting now, and what some companies like Social Hub and others are looking much more at the guests as well. So that guest journey and how they're interacting with all the different asset components and that journey that they go through. And I think that's shifting the mindset also from the tech providers and the way that we try to optimize not just the asset, but the overall customer journey and how they interact with the brand and with the property and with the different assets. I think that's a different mindsets that we've seen in the last few years.
Yeah, that's really important that you call that out. And it's a difficult transition because, from our financial point of view, we want to know what our RevPAR is, all those KPIs that we've been looking at for years. But I think our goal needs to be what is the customer lifetime value and how can we monetize that and how can we make sure that we optimize it. Next to that, I know that in the financial reports, we're still looking at those KPIs, but I think a good addition to that is the revenue per square meter that we're going to see. Okay, how can we look at our full property, all the square meters and how to leverage that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be super interesting going forward. Yeah. Just sticking with revenue management for a minute, are there gaps that you're pushing your providers? Are there things that you still want for them? I'm going to ask the same if you're hearing that from your customers as well. Rebecca?
Yes, I think the customer lifetime value is something that's that we still are looking for in a tech solution. We've been talking about this in the industry for quite some time.
We have.
But if you look at a typical RMS, it's still a lot focused on, the revenue on a room or sometimes now a space. So bringing that into those platforms, I think will be a good improvement. Additionally, if we look at our concept, hybrid hospitality, I think it will be very cool to see in the future how this would work in those tech platforms. We're developing, we're pioneering, but how can we run alternative scenarios? How can we, get the system with maybe AI solutions to provide us insights on which segment or which service to offer in a certain space. So we're at the beginning of that, and I know we're trying to develop it, but I think we have some way to go for it to be as standard as it is today for optimizing room revenue.
Is that the kind of thing you're hearing from your customers as well, or what would the next steps be for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things we've heard and we're trying to address now is there's always been revenue management sitting over here trying to manage the space and what they're trying to do there, and then you have the marketing teams that go out and deal with the customer and the guest journey and so forth, and those have been quite disconnected. And I think now what our clients are asking and one of the things that we're trying to address is how do we bring those two together. So from the revenue management side what the needs are in the property, what areas or spaces in the hotel need the business, so we have a very good grip on that. But then how do you match that with the guest and the customer and what are their preferences and who are the right customers? So it goes back to the original right product, right price, right customer, but we're getting to a situation where we're able to integrate those data sources and apply optimization to it to really say, hey, I have a need in a certain space or a certain hotel, and I have customers that match that exactly. And let's put the two together because that's better for the property and it's better for the customer because they're getting what they want and need, and the same for the property. So that's something that we're seeing is getting more and more into the mainstream now, and we're trying to address that.
And AI, presumably, you're thinking that this is going to play a huge role here?
Yeah, I think traditionally it's always been, again, about the data side. So we're very much a data company, and we've addressed that really to say, well, we need this type of data in this particular format and so forth. I think now, where we're starting to be, through AI and other technology advancements, we're able to kind of take data in any shape and format, and the AI is able to help us to determine that is going to help in the forecasting or in the optimization process. So there's a lot more flexibility now through AI and other technology advancements to be able to capture more data and optimize it and address it in much smarter ways than we could have done before.
Do you think we're too excited about AI, or do you think we're sort of treating it sensibly?
I think there's both. I think there's both happening at the same time. So I think there's a lot of excitement around generative AI and large language models and being able to interact with the AI. I think there's a lot of noise around that. I think what we try to do is to make sure that whatever we apply or we use is verified and trusted. So as we're a decision system and we impact the performance of the properties by deciding on price or inventory and so forth, we have to make sure that whatever we do is trustworthy. So when we look at AI, we have 20 PhDs and 200 analysts and scientists that all focused on making sure that what comes out of the AI or goes into the AI, it can be trusted and verified. So I think that's a very important part that we all need to keep an eye on.
And then you have the part of change management.
That's, yes.
Because, when RMSs were upcoming, you had those revenue managers not trusting the system, overriding the recommendations, and you see that trust has been built in most cases. That will be the same, when implementing more of the AI capabilities in the platform.
Yeah, I heard the guys from Muse talk about that last week. This is not about revenue management, but it's more about property management with the night audit. It's like you can do it automatically, but people don't trust it. And so they still want to physically do this kind of night audit, which I thought that's so interesting. So where do we think the next kind of wave of innovation might be? Now, from your point of view, Rebecca, that could be with your guests and your customers and your services. And from your point of view, it could be from technology. And it might not be revenue management. It might be PMS. It might be CRS. It might be coming together. But do you want to start, Rebecca?
Well, there are a lot of cool and exciting things happening. And today and yesterday, I've already seen a lot, at the conference here. I think, what you just mentioned, bringing those different departments more together will create a different need. And so the marketing department, the revenue department, of course, also with sales. And I find it very important that we keep this connection to the operating parts of the hotel. So those departments coming together will create a new set of requirements. Mm-hmm. And we will definitely challenge, all our tech vendors to help us achieve our goals and our strategy in that.
Of course, good. Paul, what are you thinking when it comes to the next wave of innovation?
Well, I think when it comes to revenue management, I think what we're seeing is what I almost call democratization of revenue management. So there is definitely a trend in not just AI, but our ability to translate what the systems are saying into something that users can easily use, interact, and implement rather than being data scientists themselves. Mm-hmm. So the revenue manager's role is changing dramatically from being somebody who can program Excel or run reports and things like that and do analytics. They're able to use the system to really make decisions and not just have to be very sophisticated to do that, but anyone in a small hotel down the road or an Airbnb or whatever the case may be, they should be able to use the technology that we're providing, and not just from the revenue management side, but from all the technology providers. It's getting a lot easier for people to use the technology and
so it's a sort of a leveler for people.
Yeah, leveler, absolutely, yeah. And we're producing some of our outputs are no longer just reports or graphs or things like that, but really in language. So your forecast over the next few weeks looks like this, we recommend that, and so forth. So it becomes a lot easier for people to understand what systems are saying and doing.
And take real actions.
Yes.
Yeah, and also looking forward to have that conversation with the platforms that you can just ask, hey, tell me what happened last week without diving into that data. So completely agree with you.
Yeah, in a much more intuitive kind of fashion.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also looking forward. So can the system recommend, I need to do something on the marketing side, or I need to run a campaign, And if so, what period, what type of campaign should I offer? And those types of things are coming a lot more sooner, I think, than people
because
expect.
we're drawing on historical data and,
That's right,
Yeah, what
Yeah.
kind of lead time, what will be the best moment to run this campaign, what kind of discount, whatever. That will be very interesting.
Okay, many good things to come. Rebecca, Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.